Greetings from the farm. Hope you're well. My name is Chisha Folotia, and it's so good to have you back with us here on the Mondo Farms channel. We grow a lot of types of vegetables here on the farm, but there's one in particular that we've never ever shared with you before. It might surprise you to find that sweet pepper is one of our most important crops on the farm. Now, some of the regular viewers and subscribers will be like, hold on, Mondo Farms grows sweet pepper. How come he's never shared that before? Well, we've mentioned it once or twice, but we've never actually had a full program about it. And that is what we're going to do today. I must say that for most of this year, I have been obsessed with onion, which is our primary crop on the farm, but we do have crops like sweet pepper, which was grown behind here. I'm going to be talking about the sweet pepper crop that we planted at the end of last year and that we just retired a few days ago. I'm going to tell you the story of how it started and a couple of adventures that we had while we were growing it. There's a bit of a mystery and a couple of sad moments, but it all turned out well in the end. Stay with us. So we're going to talk about where and how we grow our sweet pepper. But before I do that, let's talk about the different types of pepper. The basic divide is between hot pepper and sweet pepper. And when you look at hot peppers, you've got your chili peppers, what we call impiri-piri. You've got your chili mbuzis, you've got your Scotch bonnet peppers in the West Indies, you've got habanero, cayenne pepper, all the ones that are hot. They've got that hot taste. And then there's what are called sweet peppers. Now, sweet peppers are not hot per se, although my nephew Malimu would beg to differ with us, as we've learned one day. And I generally divide these between green and colored peppers. And the colored peppers are red, yellow, orange, and all the other colors in between. Different types of cultures prefer their colored peppers in a different taste. Here in Zambia, we mostly go for a bright yellow and a red. Colored peppers are what are defined as a high-value crop. Now, let me explain a little bit what that means. Based on what we found on the Zambian market. So if you take a green pepper, the average market price for a green pepper is about 4 kwacha per kg. But for red and yellow peppers, we're talking 20 to 25 kwacha per kilogram. Now that's a very big difference for what is basically the same thing. They are the same product, they are grown in the same way, they take the same amount of inputs. It's quite interesting. So our strategy here at Mondo Farms is to get the maximum return for whatever crops we grow. It just makes business sense. And as we all know, farming is a business, right? So we always have to decide what crops to grow, when to grow them, and how to grow them. Back when I was starting this farm and establishing it back in 2020, I decided that sweet pepper was one of the crops that we were going to grow. And we actually grew some green and some red and yellow peppers down at Riverside.
Namili sikono zinakula basache kuti ziite nayo
Moti zinakula manje mvula zuwa itenali nganyama
Papa, that's why manzi ni mkwala manzi. Green pepper che mvula inaloka mairo. Imwe wana iyenzo kula because ya nyansi mwachi msangu trich.
For the most part, it went well, and we got some good returns, a little bit of harvest out of the greens. But when it came to the red and the yellows, we soon discovered what happens when you grow red and yellow peppers out in the open field. You get sun scald. I always struggle to say that word, sun scald. Sun scald, depending on how you pronounce it, but basically, the fruits get burnt by the sun.
Itafai kwa kuipusha fast zaono ngeka vintu on vid on moment ile naona paka ni chani hichi but quickly mairo on yambi on
It was so funny when we first saw this strange thing on our plants. We said, what is this disease? What is going on? And then we discovered it was actually just sun scald. It's not a disease at all. And that's how we learned that when you're growing pepper, sweet and red peppers, you need to grow them inside the shade house like this one. The main advantage of the shade house is that it controls the amount of sunlight that's coming in, and that allows the pepper then to turn from the original green that it was, and because it takes a couple of days, maybe up to a week sometimes for a pepper to turn, and that's when the pepper is vulnerable to sun scald. The shade house also provides a wonderful environment in terms of humidity, climate. It's nice, moisture loss, and you end up using less water. The shade house can also provide protection against pests such as birds, rodents to some extent, and insects as well to some extent, depending on the type of shade cloth that you actually use. Some of it is very good against some of the larger insects, not the little ones, but the larger ones. Fast forward a few months, and by the second half of 2021, we'd managed to construct our shade houses at Westgate, and we're preparing to grow our first crop of red and yellow sweet peppers undercover in one of them. Hey, there's a long story about what happened when we first built a massive shade house. It was monstrous. It got hit by bad weather, and as we were rebuilding, we decided to split it into two, but that's a story for another day. So sweet pepper is like tomato and other crops like that you need to plant seedlings in the ground after they've been grown in a nursery. So that gives you time to order your seedlings, and you've got about 6 to 8, 9 weeks for your seedlings to come. And while you're doing that, you start preparing the beds. So we then got in here after when the repairs to the shade house was just about being completed, and we started making the beds in here where we would come and plant the sweet pepper.
Muno mnasiro tungio mnasache ufaka che vigamba ma patches ga. Then dobako hivi vonse hivi. Vonzo vidobe vipeteke. Then hapa tibwanja pana sala hapa. Wanapaswa udandrama. Wow. Machipanga bwanji konfi. Ikondro ni kontri japa ichakulisa maningi ape bwera ngomboyo. Maiwala tazola kama ndambo kuzidonza, ndambo sizodonza zabendesa ma country ndambo zamene. Westgate shade house 2. My beds.
Yeah, we are drenching now here in Westgate shade house 2. We are using Nimbeside.
The beds were ready in time for the arrival of the seedlings, which came just around before Christmas. As you know, in farming, there's no Christmas. There's no Christmas, no New Year's, no holidays. We just push on. So let's talk about what we'd actually ordered. We had ordered red and yellow, as I said, and we normally do that in the ratio of 60% red and 40% yellow, because that's the market ratio that the Zambian market seems to buy them at. And what we ordered were hybrid varieties by a company called Ragswan, which are distributed here in Zambia by Holland Green Tech. By the way, Ragswan is Dutch, and it's the number 4 vegetable production company in the whole world. They're very, very, very big, and you should look them up. We've been working closely with Holland Green Tech for some time, and they take care of us. They provide us with quality seeds and seedlings, especially Ragswan, of course, and also agronomic support and some other products. You should also look them up. A quick mention of the varieties of sweet pepper that we'd actually ordered. So we had a red one called Red Jet. I love the name. It says what it is on the packet. And a yellow one called Ilanga that we had seen before when we visited Mr. Skazwe farm just before the elections in August. Yeah. Then we were very blessed because Ragswan and, of course, Holland Green Tech Zambia were able to give us 2 trial varieties as well. We're very, very grateful for that. And that was a red one called Tendoros and a yellow one called Reggaeton. These are new varieties that they're introducing, and they sometimes give them out to farmers to trial out. Okay, so hapa manje tiyafake muma group yao ya mene. Okay. So for example, tizambira na hii maiwa na Red Jet, then yat Reggaeton. Red Jet red, Reggaeton yellow, Reggaeton yellow. Na hiyo ni Ilanga yellow. Yeah. Kuri inangu Ilanga hapa. Itenge kwa mene, nikadem next na nzake. That's nice. Last. Then later hii Tonderos red uifake hapa. Tonderos. Kuri mozi nangu ya Tonderos. Amina? Okay, nishimuza swapping nayo. Okay, 1 2 3 ankala space. Then apatifu na ma Red Jet hapa. So hii Reggaeton iende huko. Hii Red Jet ilete hapa. 1 2 3 space. Then hapa mambo na manje ni ma Reggaeton hapa. Hata. So tavera na in terms of my colors. Yero olo ibwere until yasira. Tifuno yesa mu packet not ku mixing mu bed mafakamo inango.
Then yero ikapezeka kuti ajumpa hapa parodi.
Ya minute ma extra tuma tukipinga.
Okay.
Yeah. Uma reaching a stage wasilia weba akapenda mwasa yako na 2014 so. Then mutusia. Osa tukoyamba because yari over. Then yaja yakamba kufa. Mwambo gapi ngamwe. Yeah. Atukutangira te kufika.
Komunita ata tinhani nze kota tatan pakati. Oh. Não, não. Ate ivado. Koronga te mustrasa wali.
Westgate. Block C. Shade net. Tambo. Tago transplanting. yellow pepper ambiri yako yellow pepper because of yellow pepper pezeka kuti ni ngono uchira red pepper so takambisana kuti tiambirire ingono yambiri yende kuja kuli malaini yambiri so yellow pepper taileta ku side ku east shanga ma 50 cm
Westgate shadehouse 2 shaking ako asezedwe nachitira awe chitoevioneka bwino ayoneka anacha hardening bwino ma seedlings aya nikosa bwino maningi good size, good hardening. However, mbewe oneka bwino. At least hapa yambooneka fahamu kuti yamboenda pa ukomesho manje.
Having a quick look at the peppers. Sweet pepper. Inaba chita confuse. Pochaya machani. Mastickers. Because mwamine ina chaira. That's why is nafakepo ma population.
Okay.
Yeah. Inenizavireka ivivo gula 1, 2, 3, 4 things per month. Yeah. Because ipanga confusion maningi. So for example, muni jailanga inamba mucha, and then yenze 600, 700 ilanga, then reggaeton yenze 1,000.
Yeah.
1,000. So there's no way ingankare hapa. Basi ya makumbuki zako ma issues. Mwamine mnashanga.
So 1,000.
Eh.
So inai hapa 1,000 singa take one line.
Eh. Makumbuki ya match tako remember?
1,000. Namba jaina leo
Ilanga ija.
Inachapo line.
Niku drenching a pansi ka? Hey, pans. Hapa manje tuliko Westgate. Ni shadehouse 2. Hii drenching. Muma peppers nyuku.
na boro chain checking ako ku Westgate shadehouse 2 kapati kambati B na peppers. Seeds, crops, sweet pepper, yellow. Okay. So izafuna ku ngenesa moto weeding. Muno chama nugo?
Tunachama.
Nachanugo? Nimekuja nchito because nezinaona nzafuna mba kubwa. So much drenching? Okay. Yellow pepper. Westgate shadehouse 2. Weeding, manual weeding ma peppers. Tuzungati ntukuru pa mwamba matuchosapo mtutaira pa roads. Ungako emwasi yao.
So now as we're ending the year, the seedlings have been planted, everything's going well, they're becoming well established. The team starts doing their usual job, watering, weeding, of course, to protect the plants, applying fertilizers, everything's looking good. And just after the new year, Patricia, who is the lead agronomist at Holland Green Tech Zambia, came to have a look at the plants and see how things are going, and she was quite happy with what she saw.
More and some with my friends, so that's very good.
Transplanting shop mlibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, tuna ngojitengono, but at least pali department na.
Enough. Okay. So hapa since tirimu tangentirimu rain season monga ma early blight, black spot, nkola mimi mta recommend.
Yamena msebenza.
Iche musha msebenza sai? Okay. Because hapa nacho koicha na MSF. Okay.
So the type of varieties of sweet pepper that were chosen are those that are classed as indeterminate. So you get determinate and indeterminate. Farming is full of these complex words, all these terminologies that you have to sort of understand what it is if you're going to be a successful farmer. And sometimes what I do is like what I used to do when I was back in school is look at the word and understand the context. What do they mean? So in this case, indeterminate means that it is not determined. The plant will keep on growing and growing. It's not like thing. So let's start from again. Your determinate tomato or sweet pepper or whatever are normally short and bushy. You know, they grow to a certain height, and then when they reach that certain height, they start maturing and they start producing flowers and fruits. With indeterminate, they'll keep growing. If you've got space for 3 meters, 4 meters, whatever it is, I've seen some amazingly tall plants. Sweet pepper plants are something like Panuka farms in their shade, in their greenhouses. Whoa, like 4 meters or something. So indeterminate is what we have, and they'll keep growing. And as long as they're growing, they keep flowering, which means more money, money, money. But of course, if the plant is growing, it needs to be supported to hold it up, basically. And that's why we use trellises. So there's so many types of trellises. Different farmers use different systems. But here on our farm, we use something that looks like this, where there's these things that we call, I guess we joke and say they are crucifixes, and then they provide the support, so they're dug in the ground, and then you use a barbed wire on top. And we like to use a barbed wire because it stops them from slipping, the ropes. What are we stopping from slipping? It's these strings, and we use baling twine to actually hold up the plant itself and to guide it upwards and to hold it upwards. Putting trellising in a place like this, it takes a long time, and it took quite a couple of days for the team to actually come in here and actually get this thing done. But the main advantage is that you've got a crop that's going to be there for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and this is a piece of infrastructure that will be with you for quite some time, and it's there until the crop ends.
Silisa kwa jama fola inza red paper meana sala. Kone kabuina mapepa zakuni.
So for the next few weeks, we had the teams working in the peppers doing different things. They were weeding. This was the rainy season, and the weeds come fast and furious. You've never seen weeds like this. I think we should find a way of monetizing these weeds because they just come, and you gotta keep getting rid of them. They were spraying insecticides and fungicides for crop protection. There was application of fertilizers, and there was constant adjustment of the trellising strings. This is necessary as the plants grow, and we need to maintain the tension to hold them upright.
So next job ya mine za konka hapo ni uchosa ma first fruit ya. Amene first fruit ya first njemeti za konka izati konka. Next job uchosa ma first fruit. I am a first. Then my number 2 ati ya mama balancing ya batisi. So my first fruit. Aya. Ndiye job ya mimi za konka hapo. Kitu si chita trellising inda mkusira. Jackie, we're pushing go fast, guys. You see the line my manje. This is this and shito ya moon. Clemo fabe mkasiriza hapa. Msiriza ni fast hapa ikasira. Then mende mtenge masaka. Nifuna mchosa ya bana ba first ya bonsa. So yo mwana kumchosa ufika chepa mpanda. Nzokamba kati. Yeah, so yo ngwichosa in flower yo edi baite chichose. Kila chepa mena hapo cha. Matepo ali pamwamba hapo yai. Koma chali mnyansi ufika chepa mpanda pamena hapo. Fika kutoka hapa ubofika che hapa. Ndipo chosa matepo huko. Ukiambira hapo kwenda kunkwasiya. My yellow peppers. So tambo facing na problem. My yellow peppers yo folding amatepo. Nambo gwesa matepo ila ngiza matepo so. So hapa tifuna spraying na copster. Tuone bottle.
Insecticide, benefit, fungicide, crops that are this are combined. Benefit fungicide, crops.
Safnuts after tunasenzera mu chocho sama weeds. Safuna tuonekane chocho sama weeds badi. Chemical John gaina sebenza. Red paper.
Hello? Hi. Natufika. We managed to find it. Okay, thanks. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. No, we'll check them. Today, some sweet pepper. I think they're doing very well. Just another training on pruning and trellising. No, the same thing I mentioned yesterday. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's just the excessive pruning and then not balancing properly. Like I'm a fruit, which is normal, of course. They just needed another training, so I'm sure after this everything will be fine.
So things were going really well, and we were quite happy with what was happening, with how the crop was getting itself established and was coming along. And you can see me here in this clip. This was when I came towards the end of February to review progress. Now here at Westgate, Shadehouse W2, and this is one of our prides here at the farm. The way the peppers are growing, it's just amazing. If you take a quick look inside some of them, these are red peppers, and getting a little bit closer to some of them here, you can start seeing some of these blocky fruits, as my friend Bruno Membeto says. This is really happening. It's been quite a journey with these shade houses. Shade houses, we use them to plant high value crops and to create a micro environment that's kind of gives it a very even temperature, sort of climate and temperature, climate, weather. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, yeah, they're really working out. Seen a couple of challenges, but let's not get too deep into it. But take a closer look. So, as you know, all peppers start out green and then they turn into the color. Here's one with a bit of a challenge, and we're wondering what's up with you, young pepper. What caused you to die? I'm gonna pull you out and we look at this. It's rotted from the root. We've seen this before, and you can also see it must be some sort of fungus because it is very wet down here. The ladies have been in here quite a bit the last few weeks, doing some fruit balancing, some pruning, getting rid of side shoots, and just generally taking care of these. Ooh, look at this guy. He's only literally just coming out of the ground. You are a slow learner. Eh? What's happening? Your friends are in grade 5, grade 6. Peppers, as you may know, are part of the solanaceous family. So that's the same family as tomatoes, as well as potatoes. So you actually can tell when you look at the leaf. It's one of my favorite things in farming, looking at a healthy pepper leaf. Look at this one. Proper leaf. Sun leaf covering the guy, the fruit there, and it's going to allow him to, this fruit, it's going to allow him to turn. And these will be turning red in the next couple of weeks or so. High value crops like red peppers, red and yellow peppers, are a bit of a challenge in terms of time and money, because first of all they need an environment like this, you know, in order to avoid sun scald, and then they take a while to turn. So all these peppers are green right now. We could harvest them tomorrow if we wanted, and then get X amount of kwacha, but we don't want to do that. The reason we're in this farming game and we come all the way from Lusaka is to try and make some money. As I always say, we don't farm for fun, we farm to make money, to look after our family. So we let them turn red, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks as you start seeing them turn into the colors they're supposed to. So Petrus has got some of the diseased ones that we found in here, and we're going to put them in some plastic, and on Monday I can go up to livestock and talk to Omega, and we figure out what's happening, what it could be. This disease really hit us hard and caused us to lose a crop last month. So these are a red pepper, tonderos, and red jet. Unfortunately, we had an accident with the planting, and we can't really tell exactly which one ends where. Did you notice in that clip there was one or two of the plants that was like diseased and wilting was on like this? I'm telling you, little did we know that was the beginning of a whole new chapter in the life story of this crop, and that for the next 2 to 3 months, our lives will be full of problems, full of stress, full of anxiety. But before we talk about that, if you're finding value in this video, please press the thumbs up button. That shows that you like it. You can also, if you've got other friends and family that are into this crop type of thing, share this video on or the channel on your social network groups, your WhatsApp or your Facebook. You can also subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, please don't forget to press the bell icon, and you go ding, and that means that you'll get alerted by YouTube of all the new videos that come. We try to do a video around about every week to 10 days or so.
Red peppers, shadehouse too. So nzape mpako boss kuti mende mu tichipelekere kwa jamaa peppers ametinanyula watuze kuti ni problem tinga spring mkhala bwanji ni problem bwanji.
So the disease that we had noticed in the crop, and we would be noticing over the next few days, was spreading. It was going from crop to crop, and we had no idea what it was. So what do we do when we have a disease at the farm? We consult our agronomists. We do it in 2 ways. One is we shoot a video or pictures, and we send it to them via WhatsApp, and we say, what is this? Can you help us with this? A lot of times they're able to tell you immediately what it is. We can also take some samples, and that's one of the things that I did in this particular case. Let me say this. For us farmers, when our crops are diseased, it's like for a parent who's got a young sick child, you know, with colic or something, and they're keeping you up the whole night and they're crying, wah, 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 and you just don't know what's going on. And it's the same thing for us farmers, either with our crops and sometimes with our livestock as well. When a disease hits them, we really need to find out what's going on, and it's quite stressful, Mwandini. It's quite stressful, Mwandini.
mixed fertilizer mixed with the black earth.
So the crop is growing and it's about to produce its first flush of fruits, and it became time to apply the top dressing. And here at the farm, one of the top dressings that we normally use is Zambian Fertilizer's Veg Top 24, which is a wonderful top dressing fertilizer. We don't just use a fertilizer though, we add in a magic ingredient. That magic ingredient is something that we get from Osho Chemicals, and it's called Black Earth. This is a humate that allows the fertilizer to be better uptaken by the roots of the plant, and it just helps the plant. Humic acid, fulvic acid, all sorts of goodness in there.
The plants.
And another magic ingredient that we use to help our crops grow better is a product called Plant Catalyst. Now, what is Plant Catalyst? Let's look at the website. Plant Catalyst is a nutrient absorption enhancer that improves the uptake and assimilation of nutrients. It helps plants better utilize nutrients and reduces the need for synthetic fertilizers or other growth stimulants. So in other words, it helps the plants to take up the fertilizers easily. We've been using Plant Catalyst for some time in our crops, various crops, and it really does make a difference in terms of the health and vigor and ability of the plant to actually grow much better. So applying all these products that we do, Black Earth, Plant Catalyst, KLP Max, all the things you've seen us do, it might seem like a bit of overkill, right? Why not just plant the crops and let them grow? That's what nature intended. I believe that modern farming is the application of science to nature. So when science gives you something that will help, then you have to do that, because we want to get the highest yields possible and reduce our work and make some money, because as we know, farming is a business. So we will always continue to apply these products. When you look, for example, at a product like Plant Catalyst, you look at the unit cost of a 1 liter bottle, maybe something like 400 kwacha or something like that, and the effect that it does, it makes your plants grow better and it reduces your fertilizer costs. The ones that have gone double in the last 1 year. Of course we have to do things like this. Speaking of health and infection, we were still facing the problem of our beautiful little pepper plants getting sick one by one and dying. Now the thing was getting worse, and it was really spreading throughout the shade house.
So penapita kuno last. Naonai. Then ijenzo kunega kufa kudeni hapa naona buga.
So over the weeks, as we consulted different people, we were given various diagnoses as what was infecting our crops. But the ones that we came down to, narrowed down to, was 1, bacterial wilt, or 2, fusarium wilt and root rot. We did try sending some samples to the lab, but you know, Finto, sometimes it looks easy on paper, but due to work cultures and stuff, it's not that easy to get something done. I'm being extremely polite here. Looking at the Zambian lab didn't work. We thought, let's try and send our stuff to the crop nuts lab in Nairobi. But even that didn't happen. I guess things just weren't ready and we were going. And one of the reasons for that is that we knew in our hearts what the problem was. The problem was bacterial wilt. But we also knew that we had to be very careful about what we were going to do, because we were about to fruit and harvest. And harvesting is what brings income. So we had to be very careful what medication we did, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So these are the dilemmas that often face farmers. They try to keep their farm going and they try to keep their cash flow coming, because a farm is very difficult to run any business without cash flow. Fortunately for us, the disease wasn't in all the crops and it was affecting the reds more than the yellows. So we knew that we could buy a little bit of time, and then it was only going to be a matter of time before we were actually going to be able to do something about this disease. So after doing all this consultation and a lot of research, looking at pictures, you can use things like Google Lens, where you take a photo of what you have and check out what could it possibly be. We knew in our hearts, we knew that this was bacterial wilt and that we're going to have to start and do something about it. But bacterial wilt is a very, very, very special disease. What is bacterial wilt? Definition of bacterial wilt is a disease or disease symptom caused by plant pathogenic bacteria in which there is drooping or leaves or stem or plant dieback from lack of water, basically inadequate water supply and excessive transpiration. Also defined as a vascular of bacterial etiology disease that interrupts normal water uptake. And that is certainly what was happening here to our plants. The plants would just one day wilt, and within a day or two they would die. Is bacterial wilt harmful to humans? In most cases, according to research, the answer is no, and that is because the bacteria, the fungi, the nematodes that cause diseases in plants are very different from those that cause diseases in humans and other animals. The real question is there a cure for bacterial wilt? No. Sadly, the answer is no. There is no cure for bacterial wilt. When a plant gets sick, it will die. And all you can do is isolate it from its friends to help stop the disease from spreading. Bacterial wilt is a terrible, terrible thing. And diseases like bacterial wilt will stay in the soil and they will affect any plant in the same family, the type of plant in the same family. In this case, Solanaceous family. So that means that in this shade house, we can't come and grow tomato in here. They stay in the soil for years. Ooh, soil-borne diseases. Horrible. I'm telling you, horrible. But despite knowing that, we still tried applying several cures. The first one that we started with was Casomine. Casomine is a very strong fungicide and bactericide. And the way we approach this with our agronomist advice is that if it was bacterial wilt, it would at least do something about the bacteria if it was caused by a thing. And if it wasn't bacterial wilt, if it was Fusarium wilt, maybe that's caused by a fungus, it would still do something. Casomine is very, very, very strong. We also tried Enrich, which we got from Osho Chemicals. As the label says, is a broad-spectrum immunodilator plant defense activator with preventative properties in controlling bacterial diseases. Example, bacterial wilt in crops. It acts by inducing host plant resistance through activating centers for protection against a variety of bacterial pathogens, i.e., it activates the plant's natural defenses against bacterial diseases. When you're desperate to save your loved one and you read something like this, you've got to have hope, right? You really do. But enough of the negative stuff. Let's just change the topic for now and flip the script, right? Flip the script and talk about some of the crop husbandry practices that one has to do when one is raising sweet pepper. Two of the most important ones are what we call pruning and fruit balancing. And on an even more positive note, we were now reaching the stage where we were getting close to being able to have our first harvest. Yeah! You know, when I look here, the first thing I see is my yellow. Then, if you look for problems, you'll find them. Right? Yeah. So the first decision is I am a yellow. Monday harvest.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Monday harvest.
Yeah, because we've got, especially that we're gonna have to come in with the bactericide. Ijaya thing, kuchaya wilt.
Yeah.
So it's better to just say more.
Yeah.
As much fruit as possible and make something out of it. My yellow, yari easy. My ready. But na even kuyasakira nkuyacho samo.
Yeah, na even kwasakira kwacho samo.
So that clears it. Then the other day nizokama na Patricia aniuza ati anaona fruit load maningi afuna tichosemo yenangu yanka machosema green.
Chosa
kuyagulisa as green my peppers.
Okay.
But sinakambe cheni zokamuna my dear za Patricia sometimes invedes. But after namvela ati muliko ka disease na mvula vaboila vina kama you know what, it might be a better idea.
Yeah, chinga rengi sekuti chose green ngati place ilibu ino pa green.
But it's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, nani namu yakamamene same. We always argue with Patricia. You can't agree with what she says. So whatever price you've got, you have to look at to say vikankara nchanchi zachitika vesezi vichoke. That's why sinakambi kuli mwata akambati tichose. Even ona if my greens video hapa, for example, if video 3 hapa hivi that mupa hapo.
So example monga hii ari 3, so tichosa for 2, so 1.
The issue even kamba ya red ya green. Ya kari green
monga hii.
But inambo tening
hii ambo tening.
It's too small.
Ija ikali ngono because kabi yako sai. So kulema singa nimeona.
What we are trying to do is ofuna titicha flashing that chochose mo yarimo then tia passe next cropping kalena inkalekwa na chance.
Okay.
The other thing we do is talk to her.
Patricia?
Yeah. It's not a problem. Patricia is very easy. That's got my phone, whatever. So when you're here on Monday with the truck, you take the video and whatever it is. I'll introduce you whatever WhatsApp, and then we make a plan. And you show us, say, okay, this is what we've got. And then she'll show you, say, okay, on that one, it's too late. Because even another that week.
That week, yeah.
Yeah. Unless mnam to me a video that pakati.
He bought me that.
It's always very exciting whenever here at the farm we have our first harvest of a crop that we've planted at the farm. A lot of the team gets involved in different roles, and most people are all smiles because they know that harvesting leads to selling, selling leads to my salary. You see, so into Zatu. And on a more personal note, deep inside psychologically, it's also good to see what is literally the fruits of your labor. Think about all those weeks and weeks of work. You're talking about digging, making the beds, you're talking about planting, you're talking about weeding, or putting fertilizer, spraying, protection. There's a lot of work that goes towards getting your first harvest.
It's okay za kwa na maketa
So
una carton boxes.
na wote tunataka ite za pinga maketa ama plant.
Oh, yeah.
Lazima nifika kumamba tivu machosa hapo hii. Ili pansi kwa bado nitasia kuna imozi. Nitavuera tichosa hii. not because of your mama. So this to see keep balancing too.
So the harvest was done and it was happy days, happy days, happy days. Now we couldn't forget about the disease, which was like haunting us, you know? Now, let's talk about medicines and chemicals and other products that we apply on products. They are often and should always be indicated with something called the pre-harvest interval, PHI. That means that that's the amount of time that you need to wait between when you apply them and when you can actually harvest. So the medicine that we had chosen, like I mentioned before, Casomine, that's a very, very, very strong mankwala. As it said, strong bactericide and fungicide, right? And imagine, most of your medicines, your Copstar will have a PHI of maybe 3 days, this and that, 2-3 days, sometimes 7 days, 14 days. Casomine had a PHI of 28 days. That's how strong it was. Now, we were happy because at least we had harvested and we had come from a situation whereby when the disease hit our plants and we're literally losing plants and plants every day, we never thought we would reach the stage of actually being able to harvest. So after the harvest is when we moved in and we applied the Casomine, knowing that once we applied the Casomine, we were not going to be able to harvest for quite some time.
Casomine, my red and yellow peppers. Halo, osaenda Salo. Osaenda maninga, mwendeko slow.
Meanwhile, Avena Patricia, as we call them, came back to the farm for yet another visit to see how the crop was doing. Remember when I said that Holland Green takes good care of the farmers that buy its seeds and other products? Maona, ababuela, vamabuela, vachekinga, vamiwona, they hold your hand as you grow their crops.
Just keeping a bit of volume, because initially, while it's prune concept, then you find that the plant starts to suffer sometimes. So you keep some green. So all the growing points out. So for example, this will grow and produce a pepper. We don't want that.
Okay, so you remove.
So you just remove the growing points and then you let the
leaf grow.
leaves grow. So pruning, it should be done consistently because the more yakula to this level. When trying to thread this, it's very likely to cut the stem. A stem, and you only have 2. So if you cut one stem, you remain with 1. That's a cut on your production.
Yeah.
So I advise 3, but anyway, as long as you are careful, you can keep 2. So this is 2 overgrown.
Which one?
To trellis here.
Okay.
So at least it should just be this length so that you just twine quick. So this
2 overgrown, how?
This is too long to be an trellis.
Yes, I get it.
So then, Gandea shocks that trellis, I'm very likely to cut it, you know. It's easy and non. So if you look at this, but they pruned, so that's good.
So for this flower here, we're going to leave it.
So now
it
comes to so you've done what actually. So if you see here, they've kept. So ideally, we need to have like a staircase.
Okay.
Upper fruit, upper fruit. Nish, we are doing a good job. So
right now it's not a good job.
I'm just saying it's up to you to interpret.
No, because I'm asking you. You're talking of staircase, right? So
no, it's just wedding. So I'm just talking. So.
Okay.
Then the photo, it's a good job that you're doing, not that what's here is bad.
Okay.
So like for example, so that is what these guys have also been learning. So I understand that maybe first time. It's the first time to do this. So nimemwashta over prune, mwako nyaka flower. So ideally, you should see your weeks of harvest on the plants. So you can say these will ripen together at the same time.
Okay.
So meaning the next week you have nothing because there's nothing on the plant. So you need to have, if you have something here, you have something there, so that if this is Monday, this will be Sunday, that will be Thursday.
Okay.
Just like that. So we need to be at that level. We are not there yet. I understand because the people here were also doing it for the first time.
Right.
But ideally, with the, especially with the flowers, you need to make sure that you are now more consistent. So if you see this one, it wasn't trellised on time. Now I call. Yeah, no. So this can cut. So then I don't know. Then if I go to the next one, then I valid the prune.
Bapetias bangu fupe naye mukaziona.
So bapetias abantu nga bale pruning, bale solve prune.
Okay.
So mama na apa. So apa nga pali flower apa. In the flower if we level up. Or ukukumbio. So then it was over pruned such that I had the same level yenopo yali but apata pali. So kula starts ngamle sta prune ngamama nata ukunga mwafunya, especially where I'm quite tatute. Ngamwafunya hapa kulo le share next at the same level. So apa ngopo ili apata pofu kuba but apa ifure hapa. Next, if you kept here, meaning you prune here. So they pruned, that is good, but what about the next level? They also pruned. So ningamwafunya hapa kusunga hapa.
Okay.
If you finish kakakalea feso. So that's Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, just like that. So if you finish to harvest, then in the week, nothing. So every week, we need to have something we're harvesting. Every week. Yeah. So then, apaso nishina mchero kusta trellis. Chakula sana, uku kanalo mundamu. So paranga wale chita prune, bafile wale chita trellis also.
And I was at the farm the following day, and of course one of the places I visited was the shade houses here to see the progress after the harvest and after applying the casomine. And what I saw was that I would say mixed results.
So you never want to
Money for me? Give me the bottle.
Then one other thing, I should advise kuti ngatachosa munga vivola olotabwera tipita mu muli scouting kubodoba mu na mafruit yola kuvala chema disposable gloves so that akachidoko akadibwa dobewa olwavula wa handling ama plants manje wezo agwirira ko nga nyo fipa so ndo gira ku plant nangu carrying the infection.
You might as well get this one as well since we're here. Jesus.
This one?
Yeah, isn't it? It's also good.
Yeah.
So this is after ija kusomini. I don't know ngati kusomini chitachindu. Tamboi dauta. But wanakamba ti alternate na brilliant.
So
sina kwani madays. Yakwana.
Yo tichayo futi brilliant.
Yakwana madays. Wanatuza at 7 days if it's nacha 3 to 4. Dripping monat banji.
Dripping ama maya. So dichuti pasa kwa dripping raya pa. Pasa kwa 1 day.
So mujumpa day.
Mujumpa day.
But yes, tinapita mu vintu vambiri tinaisolve. It's just that wao mwana ni akalewo dwala te.
Yeah.
Munkala worried.
Aunkala worried de. Simbe sana buli. Simbe sana buli.
Steve na muno mukasale half.
Ndiye meshiwa abamene because chintu chichosa chichi mwana then pafika oti chafika pa harvesting chamba upasa ndrama then ndipechileta ma problem.
Yeah. You know, paper, the boy no man the drama. At least it's not this funny business. So we're now in a very strange position after the harvest and application of the casomine because we couldn't harvest anymore. And it was really difficult because the crop was in its prime. Kubala, kubala. And we had to wait all this time. Our customers were calling us, Tifuna sweet paper. It was tough. Those few weeks, it was tough.
There's no harm kuyadoba yabe so munga kudoba vaso hivi kuvichwa samu so that kasichokerato so mwezi mwapitiwa foot kuchoka mweti napitia pa Saturday
Just some of a little swirl what you say.
Alright, so it's tunachose. Sasa ya plastic yengi na plastic motoka. Kivichose mejoka mbati ni program ya mairo. Jeja futi kuseni tukafika tingana na vina nguvo shita. But yambili amba kuteninga moshi yae. Yambili.
Two interesting things happened then. First of all, we had to keep sending in the team to go in and harvest the ripe fruits and the overripe fruits that we know would take too long before we were ready to harvest for the market again.
Westgate. Bacha flashy chosa ija. So magrava inakupasana mkasiriza kuchosa chokuta flashing wokupya hivi vola hivi mkagwira ichi na magrava make sure osagwira futi kugwira ya meri bwino so ya mino ne ready tiole ni pasi amino wasi ai ready achokama 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 and a half nemetachosamu then yellow panga chisaka chimozi na.
And then what do we do with the fruits that we couldn't sell on the market? We had to throw them away. I tell you, it was really, really hard those days watching our fruits, beautiful red and yellow fruits lying there on the trash heap. But that's what it takes to be an ethical farmer. We realize that some of the chemicals and the pesticides that we use on our crops are dangerous. They do come with warning labels, and the manufacturers do try to help because we're ethical. We could not take those fruits to the market. So we just had to let them rot, knowing that we had a crop behind us that was going to be okay and would give us crop fruits for the next X amount of weeks. I was thinking about that trash heap, right? And remembering when we were young in the early 80s, and one of our favorite TV programs we used to watch was a program called Fraggle Rock. And we'd wait every week for that scene where someone would go to the trash heap to go and ask its advice. And at the end, the trash heap would speak, and then the guys next to it would say, "The trash heap has spoken. Nah." Now, in this particular case, the trash heap definitely spoke to us, and it was not good news. Meantime, what are we doing? We're still working to see how we can defeat this disease if possible. We can do our best. And our manager, Tyson, had joined us mid-March, end of March. And throughout April, while we're waiting, he starts now talking to the guys, trying to explain to them more about diseases and stuff. So here he is talking to our farm supervisor, Pethias, who had been with us since 2020 from the time we started the farm.
Shinango ni issue ya manzi kupaka.
Yatumanza paka?
Shishirengesa matenda enango kupaka kwa manzi.
Okay.
Kaindeja manja kamba too much of everything is bad.
Okay.
Muna ni mushedi at least tikakamba matenda munga mabacteria. Omo mudotinga muna na mshumusha yaenda fast. Then ngatakamba titirira for 30 minutes. Lero.
Yeah.
In a day. Data kamba tuke kusena zase gurirako 15. Then ikafika ko kumazuro zuro ko futi 15 nango. 30 yonse nshakwana.
Okay.
Kuchira kusati yonse 30 pamoja kanshi paza nanilira ponse.
Okay.
But reason mkana na maningi so munga yonse ikontriji. Niona na ina moisture. Iposa na mabedi ya haya panja kwati. Yanafaki wa manzi mvula inaloka bati yoneka yoyuma. So kushita avoid kuyapasa manzi ya mbili maningi kuchira na yeye afuna.
So meaning muna shadehouse na panja pa open kufuniko sia ni sama hours na kapena tikabati ma hours kapati kabati ma minutes time in short. So ngati example panja paja tia pasa ma 30 minutes. So mono zafunika kushita ko reduce na 10 minutes. 10 minutes kumamwema kambia 10 minutes mkuseni 16 hours tia pasa 10 minutes yashita iko 20 minutes. Panja ngati taona mox yambo enda pa yambo kwa pambo yuma katambo pasa 50 minutes nishimutu kwa sense na 10 minutes na nishimunoti enda pa 30 simwame. Okay. Then 30 minutes unatita divide manje kuseni na kumazuri. Okay, I should understand.
But as every manager knows how difficult it is to change mindsets, to change practices. And so Tyson also needed to go one-on-one with the actual workers who were on the ground doing the actual irrigation of the crops. And here he is the following day talking to one of the guys who was actually the guy who was assigned to the shade house.
Tabwira manje muno wa doctor. So muno mae mtirira bwanje.
Muno futi nchimozi munga titira muja so chabe to chambira kuja ku 1
iyo itakuja kulima yero
ndio tira ije kapana mawa ije kapana kavara
so kutea pa kuja mwezo kamba 30 minutes then kuno mwezo kamba ishia wanawa
muno timaona keri muno ni shade net simu biliwa maningi so hapa pakaliponana so hapa Zambia pa Saturday kutirira
muno. So mjumpisa po madezi yangati muno?
Muno lima jumpisa po 2 days.
So na mwili liyo na nandaka so 2 days, after 2 days.
After 2 days.
Then wipasa wanawa?
Yeah, sipasa wanawa. Na hivyo futi, tika mazi maningi, yamba kuja jani jantenda meje, uti yamba kujuma pakati mashite na yamba.
Hapo?
So hapa tipasa, muno tipasa kema 15 ya. Keri pala tusoka kuloka mbula manjema.
Ya 15
minutes.
So masegula chabe 15 minutes. Ntenda ya mene yone kabwanchi.
Tenda ya mbashe kuyuma ya kachabe panse akasoi mayuma chabupa.
So ni chichirengesa ni manzi kupaka olo nichani munga mwe mastira explaining
hivi chile metulengesa ni mvula
mvula
mazi namba kama nyingi mvula paja tenda ya bayamba
Dieze na kuja ku shadehouse. So then mungai mwema nere na matenda mushita ni mashita nayo bwa. So inkuichosa. Na ile ni sezi soy. So nyamene matenda ona cheni kuitana na doctor. Imwa doctor mumwaona kuti njera uyu mwana alakinga vitamin C. So mangwala ni so. Awe naonga zisiria. Okay.
What we experience here on our farm is a real issue for those of us who come from the towns and cities to establish farms and, agricultural enterprises in these rural and peri-urban areas like here. We have to find a way of connecting and communicating what we've learned in the classroom and through our research, modern farming methods, and we have to come and translate that into the people, so it's something that can be understood and accepted by the people that we find here and that we work with. They have a different background. They've been doing a different type of farming for many years. No, both too much so, then you just so, and it's a real thing that those of us, especially here in Africa, we have to deal with when we come here, and it requires a lot of patience and a lot of understanding of what we're doing with. But we've been successful at it, and we've changed a lot of the minds and mindsets of the people that we work with here at the farm. It's something I'm very proud of.
Takufaka 30 centimeters or slightly above che pali plant. So, apa 30 centimeter normal. Sakambati india 30 centimeter pali akake ketistapo experiment. From here to here, 30 centimeters equal. Manje, question in position since 20 tuka, but coffees kwa sayako tuinango. So, tatufaka systematic tikamboke, each line tuakwana, then tizambo cha double manje na tutuza sala coffees. So at mline muli monsa at least percenta karibu. So 20 ambilena pa masenta pala inilionsa.
Speaking of modern methods and techniques, here is Tyson leading the team in installing sticky traps in the shadehouse. What is a sticky trap? It's a special device that is used to help us monitor the level of insect pests that we have in our crop. Now remember that the sticky traps doesn't kill insects. It just allows us to be able to know which insects are there and to measure the level of infestation. Normally, a farmer will find insects like aphids or thrips and just start spraying. But with devices like these, we can spray accurately and when it becomes necessary. It's important for us as farmers to be able to minimize and control the extent and the type of pesticides and other chemicals that we apply to our crops for a number of reasons. Number one, these are food crops that we're growing. Now, whatever it says on the label and however safe these products are, it may turn out in generations to come that applying all these things to our food crops may not have been the best idea for humankind. But in order to get the yield that we need, we still have to do it. And as we do it in a controlled manner as possible, not just going in Number two, we need to use the right chemicals at the right time. So different chemicals will work for different things. So for example, if you have what's called an acaricides will work for red spider mites and other things that are like spiders. And then you've got different things that will kill crawling insects and, sucking and thingy pests. It's a whole thing. So when you know what kind of insects and pests you're dealing with, then you go in there and you control them. Number three, it saves us money. Now, yes, the unit costs of some of the pesticides and chemicals that we use is not very expensive, but over the long term of a crop, it does save you money. So if you find a way, like using sticky traps and stuff like that, to be able to control how much you spend, then it's actually nice. It's a good thing for you. Number 4, resistance. Now in Star Trek, they say, the Borg would say, resistance is futile. In this case, what happens when we overuse pesticides and other chemicals is that the insects become resistant to them, especially if we don't use them. And as we know, resistance is becoming a very, very, very big problem around the world.
Maona tutuntua majiki utuka. Tuambika tudoe hapa so. Ut. Twagwiriwa. Lao tu. Utuka ntua bwanshi wakulaite. Uto tungono. So manye ndepeti zaziwa kutinjebele muno mshadehouse mwatu. Ntujoe bwanshi tuleta mateni na kulima pepa ya musha.
Remember, as I always say, we're into farming to make money. Farming is a business. Oh, by the way, before you ask me, we buy our sticky traps from Holland Green Tech. Holland Green Tech again. They're made by Kloppert, another Dutch product, and they're very, very, very good. They might cost you a little bit of money, but if you look at how much they will help you, one, in terms of being able to identify your pest things. When you're growing high-value crops like sweet pepper, you've got to go all out, you know. This is your thing because you know how much you can get as a return from them. So you've got to go in there with all the methods. So sticky traps help. Sticky traps, yeah, they're a little bit of money, but cost effective really over the long term. But then again, are you spending or are you investing?
So washing my sprayers. Inja atom emittenzo spraying.
Speaking of spraying, on the Mondo Farms channel, you're always seeing us spraying, right? We spray herbicides, we spray pesticides, we spray fertilizers. The sprayers are actually the most used tools that we have here on the farm, apart from the Kambwili, of course, and the Mbazo. By the way, we get our sprayers, these beautiful motorized petrol sprayers from Saro Agro in Lusaka industrial area. And they've got a couple of other branches across Zambia. And they're very, very, very cost effective, those petrol sprayers. They really save us in terms of time. Now, we can only afford a limited number of sprayers. So what happens is we have to wash them in between each chemical that they are doing, or else you get residual and you get mixture. Can you imagine if we made this horrible hybrid type of chemical by mixing this and this in our sprayer and then spraying it in? It just gets out and it destroys the world and there's some sort of like pesticide apocalypse. So the war against the disease that was causing our plants to wilt and die was still being waged throughout April. And it was very, very, very frustrating for us.
Fungo kisiriza mkati mwana na panja hivyo mnashikoshita panja paka. Then Jack ayayo chosa nifuna kunipendera kutoa chosa yangati lero.
Napenda kudara then nipita mche kucho.
Wapenda nianga?
Kudo kuma red peppers yali 111.
Yewa chosa?
I mean, I think what we chose.
111 plants. Red pepper ndiye amenyiwa maningo na nline yonse.
The good news is that we were soon able to harvest again after the PHI, post-harvest interval, as I said, of the chemicals that we had applied to the sweet pepper had elapsed. And whoa, back to harvesting once again.
So this is our harvest for today. But our next week looks promising and much more than this. We've got 6 crates of sweet peppers, 2 reds and 4 yellow. Yeah, but looking at what we have left, next week's harvest or the week after would be far much better than that. Okay, that one is bad. I'm wondering why they didn't take it off. These are turning. They're coming. Yeah, we should be good for next week, Monday again. Looking at our fruits, the greens, we've got lots of greens, and they're slowly turning. Like the big guy here and this other guy here. Yeah, we should be good for Monday.
So the story of this sweet pepper crop continued just like that for the next couple of months. It was a terrible, terrible struggle. The evil disease would take a few more of our crops every single day. And our weapon was to fight back with yet more chemicals to hold back this disease. And apply more fertilizers to improve the health of the crop that was being so stressed and promote fruiting.
This spraying chemical hormone boost.
And our beautiful sweet pepper crops kept giving us fruits every single week or so.
Westgate shadehouse too. My yellow pepper. No. Ka harvest. Tisanga konako mairo. Three crates and a half yellow, 2 crates and a half red pepper.
And after all of that, guess what happened? We made some money on this crop. I repeat, we made a very small return and were able to keep our cash flows going. So it wasn't like a massive profit. I mean, I'll use example of like in football. Arsenal, my beloved Arsenal, will go to Anfield. We will go to the Etihad Stadium. We will go to the Nou Camp or the Bernabeu or the other place where that Bayern Munich, who likes beating us, play. That stadium, whose name I can't remember. And if we draw, it's okay. If we lose 1-0, it's okay. If we lose 2-0, it's okay. So I don't know whether it's because I'm an Arsenal fan or whatever, but I took this as a success. We didn't lose money on this crop, despite all of the pressure that we had from the evil wilt disease and all the losses that we had of the crops. And we were very happy because another thing that we're very happy with is that we actually learned how to grow this crop in a shade house. So as we go on and as we do it again, all the lessons of what we learned will have been put into our systems and into our people. You can't take away knowledge.
So
I like the color of reggaeton.
So this is the reggaeton, and this is the ilanga. Oh.
The reggaeton is short and low. This one is bigger.
Okay.
Bigger. Yeah.
Oh, you had mentioned that last time.
Yes.
Saying no, the shape size of the fruits tell the difference, saying which one is the reggaeton and the ilanga.
So as we end this video, it's important to look back at some of the factors that allowed us to succeed, if you call it success, with this crop. Number one was the size of the crop that we had planted. There were enough pepper plants in the shade house from the population that we had established to keep giving us a reasonable harvest and produce, even as their fellow soldiers were dying. So the size of what a farmer produces really matters. So whether it's the number of cows that are being milked, or the number of layers that you have dropping your eggs every day, or in vegetable plant farming, the size of your crop, whether it's hectareage or square meters or limas or whatever it is, that really matters. Number two, the price that we will get for a sweet pepper, yellow and red sweet pepper on the Lusaka market, was high enough that even with reducing yields as the peppers were dying, we were still able to get something out of it. Would we have been able to do that and succeed in such a way if we were planting and growing cabbages at 5 kwacha per head? I don't think so. And that goes back to why we do high value crops. We kept fighting. Number 3, we kept fighting. We didn't give up. Just like Winston Churchill standing up to the Nazis in World War II, we took a stand, we rallied our crops, and we just kept going. Farming is hard and it's full of challenges, but if you believe in what you're doing, you just have to go on. You arm yourself with the right tools. You make sure people are motivated in what they're doing, because the guys would come in here sometimes and they get depressed because every day, imagine mwenda muchosa my bodies out of a place. I mean, it's like the zombie apocalypse. It was just something else, man. But we managed and we kept going. And number 4, we knew that we were learning and developing. Farming is a marathon. It's not a sprint where you go in and you can make him half just like that. No. If you want to do that, do something else, but definitely not farming. It's going to take you a long time to actually know what you're doing, how you're doing it. You're going to have all these bumps and bruises along the way. You're going to lose. It's hard. And we just have to keep going. And those are some of the reasons that we pushed. So as I said, and I've said several times, high value crops is part of our strategy. Sweet pepper is part of our strategy. So we're now planning the next sweet pepper crop. That's going to be established down at Riverside 4 next month. Obviously, we can't plant the sweet pepper here. 2 reasons. 1 is crop rotation. You shouldn't grow the same thing again. Number 2 is there's a horrible soil-borne disease in there. That means that we'll have to be very careful what is the next crop that is here. We can still use this, but from a different family at a different time. We're going to be building another shade house. Can you imagine? And moving this shade house, tikukisa nyumba, take it down to Riverside 4 and build another shade house in there. And when we do that crop, you know what? We're going to do another crop. And after that, we do another crop. Oh, calming down now. Well, that was quite a story. And I'm really glad that I've been able to share it with you. It was quite emotional during these last few months dealing with this crop, and I needed time to process and to be able to share it with you. This channel is all about our farming journey, and we're always honest with you about the good, the bad, the happy, and the sad of farming. I find farming very rewarding, and I'm very committed to building this farm that we started from bush on the outskirts of Chongwe into something that will be able to look after my family in years to come, and somewhere where I can be able to come in my later years and spend some days and weeks and in a productive environment and keep my mind going and fight back against those old age diseases that are probably going to come at some point. Not being fatalistic, am I? One thing I promise is that I'm going to keep sharing videos like this with people who are interested in building and developing farms. Now, if you want to accompany me, please, number one, you can subscribe to the channel. Now that means you press the subscribe button, and if you can, press the bell icon, and then YouTube will let you know when a new video comes, which, as I always say, is run about every week to 10 days or so. You can also, if you like this video in particular, you can press the thumbs up button, and that's the one that looks like this. Oh, sorry, the pen, yeah, looks like this. And if you know other people who like this type of thing, talking about farming, vavauli me, then you put it and share either this video or the channel itself on your social networks, and you share this and let other people know. We always like to spread the news about what we're doing here. If you have a question or comment that is relevant, that other people would also be interested in, please put it in the comments below. I always say when it comes to comments that I struggle with some of the highly technical ones. I know I look like I know what I'm doing, but I'm using the duck theory, and I'm still growing. The duck theory is the one that when you see a duck moving on the surface, it's doing this, but underneath, its legs are doing this. Its legs are doing this, just like that, to move so gracefully on the surface. So I'm sorry for some of the guys who ask me questions on the channel that I can't answer. They're just too technical. But most questions we're able to answer within a couple of days or so. Speaking of comments, there was a guy who was rude, man. Rude. No, man, he was rude. No, man. But them say that's what happens when you put out yourself in public. Can't wish. My name is Shisha Folitia. Always a pleasure being here with you on the Mondo Farms channel. I shall see you soon. Shale nipo. Bye-bye.